In the mist-veiled lands of ancient Britain, where the winds whispered secrets and the forests hid ancient truths, a legend was born, not with a cry, but with a whisper. Arthur, son of Uther Pendragon and Lady Igraine, did not enter the world with royal fanfare or grand proclamations. Instead, his life began in the shadows, wrapped in the threads of a powerful enchantment. Merlin, the enigmatic sorcerer whose presence felt more like a riddle than a man, orchestrated Arthur's birth like a silent puppeteer guiding fate's invisible strings. To protect the child from those who would see him fall before he could rise, Merlin hid him away, leaving him to be raised in obscurity, unaware of the bloodline that surged through his veins, a lineage forged in battle, prophecy, and ancient power. Arthur's youth was marked by simplicity, far removed from the echo of war horns or the clash of iron. Yet even in quiet, fate has a way of stirring. Whispers grew into murmurs across the kingdom as the throne of Britain sat empty, and unrest churned beneath the surface like a brewing storm. It was then that an object of legend appeared, a sword embedded in solid stone, inscribed with words that dared fate itself. "Whoso pulleth out this sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise king, born of all England." Lords and warriors came in droves, muscle and might bending against the cold steel, but none prevailed. Until the day a boy, unnoticed and unheralded, stepped forward. With hands that had known neither war nor ambition, Arthur gripped the sword, and the stone released it with a silent thunder, as if the very earth had bowed to destiny. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some knelt, others trembled. For in that moment, Arthur was no longer the boy raised in silence. He was king. Not by blood alone, but by fate's own decree. Yet his trials were only beginning. Excalibur, the legendary blade said to shine with the light of justice itself, was bestowed upon him not as a reward, but as a burden, a symbol of the throne's heavy weight and the righteousness it demanded. With this blade, Arthur did not conquer, but united. He did not rule with fear, but with wisdom. And thus, the kingdom of Camelot rose from the ashes of chaos, a beacon of hope and unity in a fractured land. But the tale of Arthur is no mere chronicle of a crown. It is the beating heart of a people's dream, the dream that a just ruler, forged not by power but by purpose, could shape a better world. And as history became myth and myth became legend, that dream lived on, waiting to be awakened once more. Camelot was never merely a fortress of stone and banners. It was the soul of a dream cast in flesh and fire. Within its gilded halls and towering walls lived not just royalty and servants, but an idea bold enough to challenge the chaos of the world. At the very heart of that idea stood a table, round, unbroken, and without a head. No throne sat above it. No man stood higher than another. This was the Round Table, carved not just of wood, but of principle. It was the physical embodiment of Arthur's vision, a realm where valor did not wear a crown, and greatness was not measured by birthright, but by deeds. Here, knights gathered not for power, but for purpose, sworn to an unspoken code deeper than any law. In this circle, every man was equal, every voice was heard, and every oath held the weight of honor. These knights, handpicked by Arthur himself, were no ordinary warriors. They were paragons of an age trying to outrun its own darkness, men who bled not for glory, but for the innocent, who raised swords not out of anger, but out of duty. Lancelot, the tragic hero, unmatched in combat but torn by forbidden love. Gawain, loyal to the bone, whose strength surged with the rising sun. Percival, the pure-hearted seeker, whose innocence revealed truths no blade ever could. Each one brought something different to the table: fire, wisdom, sacrifice, and each one left behind a legacy carved in both song and sorrow. Together, they did not merely ride into battle. They carved justice into the bones of the land, one deed at a time. But the Round Table was more than a council. It was a compass, a guide for how men of might live as men of virtue. In a world ravaged by greed, vengeance, and betrayal, these knights were called to be better, and through their quests, they were tested. Some faltered, some fell. Yet even in failure, their struggle gave shape to the hope that strength could serve something greater. The Round Table was not infallible, but it was incorruptible in spirit. It reminded all who saw it that the measure of a hero was not the battles he won, but the ideals he upheld. And as they rode across the kingdoms, shields gleaming, banners flying, they carried not just swords, but a promise. that the world could be changed not by might alone, but by honor shared equally around a table where no one sat above another. Amid the thunder of hooves and the clash of steel, there arose a silence more powerful than war, a silence filled with whispers of the divine. Of all the quests that stirred the hearts of Arthur's knights, none burned brighter or deeper than the search for the Holy Grail. This was no mere relic, no golden treasure buried beneath stone and legend. It was the cup said to have touched the lips of Christ during the Last Supper, a vessel not of wealth, but of wonder. The Grail promised no crown, no empire, only the most elusive of rewards: spiritual clarity, divine truth, and the healing of the soul. Those who sought it did not chase glory, they chased grace. And so, one by one, the Knights of the Round Table rode out, not against dragons or tyrants, but into the unknown recesses of their own spirits, where doubt and desire wrestled in shadows. The road to the Grail was unlike any other. It did not wind through forests or over mountains alone. It curved through temptation, sacrifice, and the delicate balance between strength and surrender. For many, the journey was a mirror, revealing not just who they were, but what they lacked. Knights of renown fell short, their blades keen but their spirits cluttered with pride or sin. The Grail did not yield to might. It yielded only to purity. And so it was that Galahad, the quiet son of the mighty Lancelot, emerged not as a conqueror, but as a vessel of light. Born of valor, yet untouched by corruption, Galahad's heart burned with a clarity the world could not soil. His was not the strength of 10 men, but of one soul in perfect harmony with the divine. When Galahad at last found the Grail, the heavens did not thunder and no trumpets rang. Instead, a silence fell, so complete, so reverent, that time itself seemed to hold its breath. In that moment, Galahad saw what no mortal eyes had seen, a vision not of gold or kingdoms, but of eternity. His reward was not power or praise, but transcendence. His body remained behind, but his spirit ascended, leaving only the echo of wonder in his wake. The search for the Holy Grail became more than a tale. It became a testament, a reminder that the greatest quests are those that begin within, that the divine is not found by conquering the world, but by surrendering to something greater than the self. In the end, the Grail was never just a cup. It was the light that lives in the hearts of those brave enough to seek it with clean hands and open souls. Not all kingdoms fall with a roar. Some unravel with a whisper, the kind that slips through cracks too small to see, until the walls themselves no longer remember how to stand. Camelot, once the beacon of light in a world shadowed by greed and war, began to tremble, not from enemies at its gates, but from the battles waged within. Beneath its marble columns and shining banners, quiet fractures grew louder. The noble heart of the Round Table, once bound by honor and brotherhood, was pierced by something far more human than any sword: betrayal. Lancelot, the bravest of Arthur's knights, fell into forbidden love with Guinevere, the queen whose grace once symbolized the unity of the crown. Their hearts, tangled in secrecy and sorrow, lit a fire that no chivalry could contain. Love in all its beauty became a curse, and what had once united began to divide. As the court turned on itself, another shadow rose, not of passion, but of poison. Mordred, Arthur's own blood twisted by envy and ambition, stepped forth with a venomous smile and a heart carved from ice. He did not need armies to breach Camelot's defenses. The doubt and disillusionment within did the work for him. Brother stood against brother. Trust decayed into suspicion. The Round Table, once a perfect circle, became splintered, its ideals shattered by the very men who once swore to protect them. And then came Camelot, not just a battlefield, but the grave of an age. Blades clashed beneath a sky that seemed to mourn, and the air itself hung heavy with the weight of everything that had been lost. In that final clash, Arthur faced Mordred, not as a king seated on a throne, but as a man bleeding beneath the burden of what had been broken. He struck down his traitorous son, but not without paying the price. Mortally wounded, Arthur was carried from the field, not to a tomb, but to a boat bound for Avalon, the Isle of Mist and Myth, where time holds its breath and heroes sleep in silence. It is said he rests there still, neither dead nor truly living, waiting for the hour when Britain cries out for him once more. Camelot crumbled not because its dream was false, but because its guardians forgot to dream together. The fall was not just of a kingdom, but of a cause. a caution written not in ink, but in ashes. And as its towers sank beneath the weight of their own ideals, only the legend remained, whispering across the ages, a truth too often ignored. Even the brightest flames can die if we forget what lit them. Some legends do not end, they echo. Though Camelot has long since vanished beneath the tides of time, its spirit refuses to fade. The tale of King Arthur is not just a chapter in some dusty tome, it is a heartbeat that pulses through the very soul of storytelling. Across centuries, through the tongues of bards and the pens of poets, the legend endured. It rose in the pages of medieval romances, it danced across silver screens, and it found new life in every retelling. Because its truth is timeless. Arthur was never simply a man. He became a mirror, reflecting the leader we all wish to follow and the hero we might dare to become. His knights were more than warriors. They were ideals in motion, riding into storms not just with blades drawn, but with honor as their shield. And even in their fall, they gifted us a vision of a world not ruled by might, but guided by meaning. The legacy of Arthur is not measured in victories or empires. It is measured in values, justice, loyalty, sacrifice, and in the unrelenting belief that a better world is worth the fight. In him, we see the leader who listens, who serves before he commands. In Lancelot, we see that strength must bow to love, even when love wounds. In Galahad, we find the quiet power of purity. In every Knight of the Round Table, there's a whisper of what humanity could be if only it dared to dream beyond itself. These stories are more than entertainment. They are reminders, carved into culture, etched into memory. They challenge us to rise when it's easier to kneel, to speak truth when silence tempts us, to act with courage even when the odds weigh heavy against us. And in this ever-shifting world of clamor and conflict, what could be more vital than such reminders? When the noise grows loud and hope feels thin, the image of Camelot still gleams faintly on the horizon, not as a place to find, but as a path to follow. The Round Table, though long lost, calls us still, not to war, but to worth, to seek, to serve, to strive. Arthur's body may rest in myth, but his spirit rides on, in every act of bravery done without applause, in every choice made for the good of many over the gain of one. His story is not just a tale of what once was, it is a call, a quiet, noble summons, asking us, each in our own way, to pick up the sword of purpose and carry the legend forward.